If you told me yesterday that I'd be adding painting a self-portrait on top of everything else that I've got on my to-do list, I would have called you insane. But once I saw this video, it was over for me. Free will has gone out the window on this one. Trying to paint my own face on a time crunch and trying to make it my best painting ever to win the fame and glory of the internet? Count me in. Oh, hey, there you are. Didn't we just decide to paint a self-portrait for that big art competition?
Yeah, why?
Well, I was just wondering because we sounded really excited and now you're just...
Just what?
I mean, you're...
I'm just taking a little break. I'll get up and get started on all that in just a minute. I just gotta beat this guy.
I don't want to be a bother or anything.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, good. It's just that we really don't have that much time and there's so much to do. What kind of pose are we going to paint ourselves in? We'll obviously need to take reference photos of that and a trip to the art store to buy a new canvas. And then we'll have to prep it and all of that before we can even start painting.
Oh my God, okay. Yes, look, I get it. Let me assure you, I agree, there's a lot to do. Like I said, if you just give me 5 minutes, I'll be right with you and we can paint or whatever.
Okay, I guess I'll just wait. Now, I guess we can't start yet until she's done in there, which I'm sure will just be a moment. I need to make a confession to you guys. I've been slacking in the art making department lately. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I've been totally distracted and have spent more hours out of the studio than I've spent in it lately. Because after nearly 32 years of life, I finally discovered one of life's simple joys: losing hours and whole days playing video games. Now, not to sound like Captain Obvious, but video games are the best. I know. How am I just joining the world in this common consensus now? There's not really any good reason for it to have taken me this long. Like most 90s babies, I logged my fair share of hours on the neighbour's Nintendo 64, and I remember the original Game Boys. Something about seeing the wires inside those clear ones changed my brain chemistry forever. But apart from a few dabbles in gaming here and there in my adult years, the impossible to avoid Mario Kart portion of the evening at any gathering that seems a rite of passage in your 20s, I just never really got into them. I wanted a console, but I also didn't want one enough to part with $400. That kind of money was for art supplies. And look, I'm kind of glad that's how life unfolded for me, because if these last few months are anything to go by, I probably got a lot more art done over the years than I would have if I'd gotten into video games earlier. But in the last few months since I picked up my boyfriend's Switch, one fateful rainy weekend, I've been obsessed. So I knew that for this self-portrait, I had to portray this new obsession. The brief being a self-portrait holding an item was just too perfect, considering I'd barely put down the Switch since I picked it up. I think a good self-portrait should not just show what the artist looks like, but tell a story about them. I wanted my painting to tell a story of my life currently. I wanted it to be a small snapshot into my world in this moment in 2024. And right now, I'm totally sucked into gaming for the very first time in my life. This thing that I thought maybe I was too old to learn. This thing that reminded me that in life, there's always something new around the corner that will become a really big part of your life and add fun and play back into it just when you need it most. The fact that I wouldn't have time to play video games for a month because I was painting a painting about me playing video games and not having time for painting, well, that was just extra ironic goodness on top that made this idea so perfect. Whoa, I really got ahead of myself there, didn't I? I even went and started the actual painting. But I want to rewind just a little bit and share some of the preparation for this project because there's a lot more that goes into a painting like this than you might think. First, a trip to my favourite place in the world, the art store. Because I don't like to make anything easy on myself, I want to use this painting as a chance to push myself out of my comfort zone. The first way I'm doing that is with the medium I'm using. I've chosen to paint this self-portrait in oil paint. I've dabbled in oils off and on throughout the years, but since I transitioned from mainly illustrating to painting, I've been primarily painting in acrylics. Their quick drying time and layerability is something that I love about them, but is also kind of a double-edged sword. I've been itching to delve into oils again and to really spend some time becoming familiar with them after years of dabbling. Using oils for this painting is going to completely throw me off from my usual painting approach, in which I don't really care too much if I make mistakes, because with acrylics, I know I can just layer over them immediately. And in fact, working fast and intuitive and creating lots of these kind of layers can make for a really interesting acrylic piece. But with oils, I'm going to need to have more of a plan and a methodical approach, especially because I do not have time to wait for layers to dry if I make mistakes. The fumes that this thing was emanating last night were noxious. So I had the dehumidifier on, but I also cracked the window a tiny bit because I didn't want too much dust to get in. But I think the dehumidifier did a really good job, or like I didn't put a thick enough coat on because it's touch dry. So I'm gonna do another coat right now, and I think I'm gonna try to do it a little bit thicker, but hopefully this will be dry in a couple days, fingers crossed. While I'm waiting for this to dry, could be a couple days, could be up to a week. I don't want to waste this time, so I'm going to do some preparatory stuff, starting with some studies of this old mug. And especially a self-portrait, needs a good reference photo. With my concept in mind, I try to make each element, even the clothes I choose, have a purpose and tell part of the story. I choose a cozy knit beanie and cardigan because I think A, they're going to give the painting some texture, and B, because they represent that coziness that I've been feeling when I've been all bundled up on the couch playing games this winter. When I'm taking the photos, I'm thinking mainly of capturing a lot of different expressions and a few different body positions. So I have a lot of different options when I create the final composition reference in Photoshop. I've got big plans for a very punchy, strong lighting effect for this piece, but unfortunately I don't have the lighting equipment to capture it in my reference, so I'm going to be working totally from imagination later. So I've got my concept, I've made my reference, I've prepped my canvas with oil ground, I've gridded it up, and I've started the underpainting. Now, of course, it's time for a spanner to be thrown into this project that puts the whole timeline of this painting in jeopardy. I still can't believe what I'm about to show you next. So, I got a kitten. Everyone meet Blueberry Spicehead. Blueberry Spicehead, meet everyone. I've been wanting a cat forever, so who was I to say no to this little bundle of joy, cuteness, and terror when she came into my life at precisely the most inconvenient time? I had a cat for 17 years, but I'd truly forgotten the kitten stage. Now, I'm not saying I'll win this competition solely because I painted 50% of this painting with a paintbrush in one hand and a cat toy in the other, but I really should. If you spot blueberry in this painting, it was completely unavoidable. She made me do it. It's really rare, actually unheard of, that I come up with a name for one of my paintings before I finish it. I usually find naming paintings really hard. I make pictures, don't make me make words too. However, the name of this painting came so easily and hit me so suddenly. Away from the Fairies. This painting is all about me becoming obsessed with this thing that takes me away from painting. When I'm making art, it's like I'm away with the fairies, lost in my own world where hours pass by, and the only reason why I stop is because I realise my butt's gone numb and I haven't had a bite of food to eat in 5 hours and I'm about to pass out. The art fairies haven't been happy with me being so distracted with my new hobby that they've desperately been trying to get my attention and have had to resort to paintbrush-based violence. Instead of being away with the fairies, I've been away from them, and they just aren't having that. So the time has come. The underpainting is dry, or it's touch dry, so I can go in with the first proper layer of colour. Now this could be the first and last layer because I might not actually have enough time to go in and do another layer. I'm really hoping that I do, because in my mind, I'm really going to want to put an extra layer on top of this one just to really push this colour scheme and this idea that I have in my head. But we'll see. So in saying that, with this layer, I'm going to try to bring it to a level of finish that I will be happy with it if I don't get time to go in with another layer. But because I'm on such a time crunch, every layer of this painting and every step of this painting really counts. Now, that also brings me to this piece of paper I have in my hand. Now, normally for my paintings, I'm pretty intuitive in a lot of areas that I approach my paintings, from the subject matter, like how that develops, and the colour. But I don't have the luxury of time with this painting like I normally do. So I really want to get the colour right. I just really won't have time to fix it. So I've got to go in with a plan. So I'm using a colour gamut for the first time. So I use this free online tool and I created my own colour gamut based on the colour scheme that I'm envisioning for this painting. I can only use the colours that are inside this triangle. So everything else on the colour wheel is out of bounds. This should create a colour scheme for my painting that's more impactful, and it gives me set parameters to work in, so I'm not overwhelmed with the whole spectrum of colours. I have a bit of a plan and I have some structure to the colour scheme of this painting.
Don't come quick. I switch them off this, but I've never met anyone happy like this. Sometimes when the sun goes down, leave my messy burn out, my close in the crowd. My feelings leave up like the moon. I need a little more space to give my mind some room.
this painting that requires my utmost concentration. And I have a psychotic kitten attacking me. So one of the challenging aspects of this painting, and there's quite a few, is painting my tattoos. I have no idea how to approach this. I feel like there's a lot to painting tattoos realistically. They're not just like black ink added on top of the skin. They kind of need to look like they're a part of the skin. And obviously, like, ink, once it's healed, isn't actually quite black. I also have quite a complicated design that I'm working with, but luckily I've already kind of handled that in the underpainting. The challenge now is to not lose the structure, the outline of the tattoo that I've already painted, but to also bring the hand to life a little bit more and make it look more like a hand. I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite intimidated and daunted by this next part of the painting, but this whole painting has been intimidating and daunting, but that's really fun. So I'm going to start this hand before I lose my nerve. So despite the complications that had stopped me from getting as much painting done as I wanted to these last few days, I've actually gotten to the stage that I was hoping to get at, albeit a couple days late. But I still think I'm going to have enough time to go in and do a second layer on this painting, which I knew from the start, like, I really needed to be able to do to get this painting to a stage of finish that I'd be happy with. Ideally, I'd like to do like at least 3 layers, but 2 is workable. We can work with that. Now with this layer, this is what will probably be the final layer because there's only a few days until the competition ends. So this layer, it's going to be it. What I'm hoping to achieve with this layer is to bring in a little bit more detail through glazing and also through application of opaque paint, especially on areas like the face where, you know, as a self-portrait, the face needs to be the focus. The more detail I can add there, the more that it's going to bring that focus to the face. And with glazing, I really want to finish the jumper and the beanie. So on that first layer, I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm quite happy with what I did with it. I think there's some good texture and there's a good base, but I'm hoping with this next layer that I can create a better sense of sort of color and texture and depth. So you might notice that I haven't painted in the faces of the fairies yet. And that's for a very important reason, because an idea came to me and once it popped into my head, I just couldn't not do it. As much as it's going to make my life harder and take longer, this painting, in my eyes, is not complete without it. So what is that idea? Well, you know how this is a self-portrait? Now it's going to actually be 4 self-portraits in one, because I'm going to make the fairies' faces my face. So it's going to be like little tiny me's trying to get my attention and bring me back to painting. This challenge has already been hectic, so why not just go one step further and just add in 3 more of my face. And the faces being so small, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to make it easier for me or if it's going to be way harder to capture my likeness on such a small scale. There's quite a lot of things in this painting that are new things to me that I've never painted before. Knit texture, my hand tattoos, and this lighting effect. There's a few days left and I have a lot to do. As long as I don't mess it up. I don't have any wood around me, I just have IKEA particle board, but it'll do. I'll be fine, and I think I can get this done. The paint on my palette has also dried up. I've used a lot of it, but some of the colours I have a lot left, but it's dried up. So I need to clean my palette and I need to mix up a whole new set of colours. So kind of on the spur of the moment, I decided that I needed to do something that would potentially ruin this whole painting. But sometimes you have to take that risk and weigh up the risk versus the reward, and kind of you really don't have much of a choice. If you're looking at your painting and you can sense that maybe something's off and it's going to take a big, bold move to correct it, sometimes you just have to jump in and do it and risk it all. And in this painting, with this really extremely strong lighting that I have going on, I was painting it from my head. I was also painting it from some photos that I was looking at similar lighting on different faces, like on Pinterest, to figure out how this lighting works. When you have a really, really bright light and then you have everything else in quite dark shadow. So I think how I initially had painted the face was fine, but I feel like it needed more contrast. I just don't think that it was looking, it just didn't look quite right to me. I think it looks a little bit better on the video than it did in person, and maybe it was just fine and I didn't need to do anything, but there was something about it that wasn't sitting right with me. So I decided that I needed to really add this deep, deep, deep purple, this deep dark purple onto my face to really contrast and like bump up that lighting effect. And I don't know, you be the judge. I think I'm happy that I did it, that I redid the face and took this step, but I don't know, you tell me in the comments, did you like it before? Did you like it after? Let me know. Guys, it is crunch time. Time for crunching is now. I'm doing the very final details because today is the 22nd, tomorrow's the 23rd, then on the 24th, the competition closes. So this final detail stage is so much fun. But there's also a lot of decisions to be made, and I'm not really too sure what to do. The painting is at a stage where I could probably just leave it, but I think the fact that I have these fairies and they're holding paintbrushes. I have kind of envisioned that there needs to be like paint splattering off the brushes and like landing on me, because I feel like that sort of, it makes more sense. Like, I mean, fairy me could be just like attacking me with paintbrushes, which also works, but why not both? So I don't really know what color to have these paint splashes. I'm not sure if I want to have them like in the color gamut that I've used for this painting, or if I want to sort of break out of that and use some different colors, because that would tie in with like my other artwork. Like, I tend to use a lot of different colors in my art, so I feel like it would bring it in closer in vibe to a lot of my other paintings. But I've chosen to use a color gamut in this painting for the first time for a reason. So I don't know. After I've done these little splashes, whatever I end up doing, I'm basically just pottering, dabbling, and yeah, just having the best time adding the final little details. I don't want to overwork it, and I don't have time, if I make mistakes, to fix anything, because I have to submit the painting in a few days at the latest. I actually want to do it tomorrow just to be safe. So I'm gonna have a think about that paint splash decision, and hopefully I can get this painting done in an hour or so. That would be amazing. That would be insane. Let's see. Let's try. Would I do anything different with this painting? I mean, maybe if I had the time. But overall, I'm so happy with how this piece turned out. I had a concept, and I think I did a good job of making all the elements in this piece tell the story of that concept. I tried new things, pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and made some spur-of-the-moment impulsive choices that I think paid off. This painting has made me realise that I really want and need to upgrade my painting setup as I take the next step in my career. I think it's definitely time for a proper easel, chair, and, oh my god, an air purifier. Because although I didn't show it throughout this video, I have no idea how you oil painters don't pull your hair out constantly, battling dust settling on your wet paint. It was a whole thing. It's been a couple of days since I finished the painting, and I just wanted to come and have a chat, I guess, to kind of round out this video and share like my final thoughts about the painting and about just this whole experience. I feel like I've learnt a lot of things about oil paint as a medium, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to use it in the first place for this painting, because I knew like this is A, it's such a big canvas, and B, I knew, you know, it was going to take me a few weeks to complete. So I'd be really immersed in oils for that time. So I knew I was going to learn some things, and I definitely did. One of them being that it's really difficult to photograph oil paintings when they're not dry. And just kind of in general, because the paint has a bit more of like a sheen to it than acrylics do. Usually acrylics are quite matte when they dry, almost a little bit dull when they dry, acrylics, before you put a varnish on them. But with paintings, you kind of have to photograph them before you varnish them. Otherwise, the varnish adds this extra layer of glare, which makes it even harder. I've sort of figured out that with oil paintings, I've got some areas that are dry and a little bit more dulled down, and then areas that are quite a bit thicker and more glossy. So it's really difficult to photograph accurately. I really want to take a high quality photo of this painting, and I did try yesterday, but it's just not looking like it does in real life. But I've done some research, and apparently there's a thing called retouch varnish. And unlike regular varnish, you don't have to wait for like 6 months that you usually do for oil paintings to be fully cured. You can use retouch varnish when the painting is like touch dry. And from my research, it gives the whole painting more of like a uniform look, which makes it easier to photograph. And apparently retouch varnish is more flexible than regular varnish, so that's why you can apply it earlier. And yeah, I just saw on some forums and stuff that people said that it's easier to photograph if you do that. Especially because I've got so much dark shadow in this painting that I think that can be sort of difficult to photograph too from my research. People who had really dark areas in their paintings found it hard to photograph those areas to look like life, and to accurately portray what the painting looks like in real life. So that's a thing, but that's okay. I just need to be patient, let the painting dry a little bit, and experiment with that retouch varnish. I think there's some things that I did well and like I'm happy with, and there's a lot that I have learned from and maybe could have done better, but I'm not beating myself up about it. This is, with every painting you learn things. So the faces of the fairies, I think I got the middle one with quite a decent likeness to me. I think it looks like me. I didn't want to put too much detail in any of the faces because I wanted the big face, me, to be the focus. So I was really trying in this painting to not put everything in high detail, which I guess I have a habit of doing in my other paintings. So I wanted to have some areas that, you know, receded a little bit more because they're not as detailed. So that's what I did like for the fairies and for the fairy faces. So I do think they are me, like I said earlier, how I wanted to make the fairy faces my face. I think the middle fairy definitely is. I think the other two fairies, because their faces are quite turned away, especially like the top fairy, because my hair's in the way as well, you only see like little snippets of my face. And the bottom fairy, my face is quite turned away as well. You can't recognize them as much, but they have my hair and they are me. So I'm happy with that. I think I did fairly well with that. I was really going for, like I said earlier, like a really strong lighting effect in this painting. So I was really trying to push everything that wasn't directly in the light of the switch, which was like coming up underneath my face, into darkness, because if you've got that really strong lighting, like it's insanely bright glow, and the rest of you is like in darkness, like maybe that's the only light source, Everything else will be really dark. So I darkened my hand. I darkened everything behind me, my jumper, blueberry, everything that was not in that direct glow is a lot darker, and because it's darker and in more shadow, there's less definition to it. So it's more, there's less crisp edges and lines, and it's very much obscured in shadow. So that's what I was going for, and I think I did okay. I hope it reads well because I've been in this painting for weeks now, staring at it and working on it. So I feel like you can lose objectivity. I hope it reads. I think it does read. With my colour gamut, I don't think I was as successful as I wanted to be with it. The green was supposed to be like the most saturated colour in the painting. That bright lime green was the only colour in full saturation. Everything else was more greyed down, supposed to be, but I think I could have pushed that further. I don't think I mixed up my colours quite well enough. I think I really needed to desaturate them even more than I did to really get that effect. And I think in hindsight, I wish I used more desaturated green on the first layer and then only added in like that really bright green on the second layer. I think I maybe took it a little bit too far too soon, and then it was really hard to pull back from. But again, I learnt. I really enjoyed using a colour gamut. I'm going to keep experimenting with them because I love colour. I love painting with colour. But I think the next step in my growth as an artist is to learn how to pull it back a little bit in some respects to actually end up making the really saturated colour that I do use more impactful. So yeah, I tried that in this painting and I'm going to keep trying it. This painting took me, I'm going to say anywhere from 30 to 40 hours. I was trying to keep track of the hours and log them as I painted, but I'm not very good at that and I kept forgetting. So that's a guess, but at least 30 hours. So 30 hours of this painting. This video took me probably the same amount to edit. So this has been a really big project. It was really fun working on this big scale, which I quite like painting big. But I am definitely looking forward to doing some smaller paintings next. I'm coming in again. Hey. Hey. Are you forgetting anything?
No, I don't think so.
You can't think of anything?
No, I'm all good.
Nothing you forgot at the end of the video?
Thank you for watching my video. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.
Yeah, cool, buddy. You nailed it.
Supposedly meet encounters with the desert.